The file was marked Cosmic Top Secret, with a Soviet stamp dated March 1967. I found it in a warehouse in Minsk, buried under 50 years of forgotten Cold War documents that nobody had bothered to digitize. Just paper, yellowed, fragile. The kind of thing that would have been destroyed if anyone remembered it existed. But I remembered, because finding forgotten Soviet secrets is what I do. My name is Major Elena Volkov, 34 years old. CI, a Special Activities Division, Intelligence Branch. Third-generation Russian-American. My grandfather defected in 1972, bringing with him knowledge of Soviet biological warfare programs that helped end the Cold War. My father followed him into intelligence work, and now me. Family business, you could say. I speak fluent Russian, read Cyrillic like it's English. And I know how Soviet bureaucrats thought, how they filed things, how they hid things. Which is why the agency sent me to Minsk in November 2022 when the Belarusian government quietly offered access to their Soviet-era archives in exchange for, let's call it, economic considerations. Look for anything biological, my handler had said. Weapons programs, human experiments, anything that might still be relevant. I'd been in that warehouse for 3 weeks. Found plenty of horrifying things, chemical weapon formulas, radiation exposure studies on unwilling subjects, plans for weaponized smallpox, the usual Soviet nightmare material. But nothing like Project Timberwolf. The file was thin, maybe 50 pages, handwritten notes, laboratory reports, photographs, and a map of the United States with red circles marked across the Pacific Northwest. Washington, Oregon, Northern California. The first page was a memo from someone named Dr. Yuri Volkov. No relation, common name. Dated March 3, 1967. Memorandum to Directorate of Special Programs. From Dr. Y. Volkov, Biological Research Division. Subject: Project Timberwolf, Phase 3 completion. Comrades, I am pleased to report successful completion of genetic modification protocols on specimens designated TW-alpha through TW-delta. Enhanced musculature, increased aggression response, improved cold weather survival, and critically, ability to navigate terrain unsuitable for conventional forces, have all been achieved within acceptable parameters. As discussed, specimens are ready for deployment in target zones. Recommend immediate release in designated sectors across United States Northwestern territories. Once established, subjects will breed naturally while maintaining enhanced characteristics. Long-term objective: create sustainable biological disruption in American wilderness regions, particularly those with strategic military value. Subjects require no maintenance, no resupply, no command structure. They are self-sustaining weapons that will persist for generations. I read it 3 times, looked at the photographs. Large primates. Not quite apes. Not quite human. 8 feet tall in the pictures, standing upright, showing massive muscle development, and what the notes described as enhanced cognitive capacity for territorial behavior. The photographs showed them in cages, in laboratories, being measured, being tested, and in one disturbing image, being loaded into what looked like transport crates marked with American addresses in Washington state. They'd created something, enhanced it, and released it in the United States as a biological time bomb. And suddenly, 50 years of Bigfoot sightings started making a different kind of sense. I photographed every page, encrypted the files, sent them via secure satellite uplink to Langley. Then I kept digging, found more files. Project Timberwolf had been extensive. Dozens of specimens, multiple release points. The goal wasn't just disruption, it was long-term ecological and psychological warfare. Create an apex predator in American wilderness that would make forests dangerous, unpredictable, and strategically unusable. The Soviets had weaponized cryptozoology. My phone buzzed. Encrypted message from my handler. Return to Langley immediately. Do not discuss findings. Cosmic classification. I was on a plane 12 hours later. Arrived at CIA headquarters in Virginia on a gray December morning. Went straight to a SCIF, sensitive compartmented information facility, where 6 people were waiting. I recognized 3 of them. My handler, Deputy Director Morrison. Dr. Emma Major from the Science and Technology Directorate. And General DeAndre Wild. Yes, that DeAndre Wild. The one from the North Cascades incident in 2018. His presence meant this was serious. Wild had been quietly reassigned to a Special Programs Division after his court-martial. Officially retired. Unofficially still working classified projects. The other 3 were strangers. Military, Special Operations command patches. The kind of people who don't have public identities. Major Volkov, Morrison started. What you found in Minsk confirms something we've suspected for decades but couldn't prove. Project Timberwolf was real. The Soviets created an enhanced primate species and released them in our territory in the late 1960s. Bigfoot, I said. They created Bigfoot. Not created, Dr. Major corrected. Enhanced. They started with existing specimens. Gigantopithecus blacki, we think. A species thought to be extinct for 100,000 years but apparently surviving in remote Siberian forests. The Soviets captured them, modified them, weaponized them. She pulled up images on the screen, DNA comparisons, genetic markers. We've had tissue samples for years, hair, blood, occasionally a body that hunters managed to kill. But we couldn't explain the anomalies. The genetic modifications were so subtle, so integrated, that we thought it was natural variation, a relict population that had evolved unusual characteristics. Until you found the Soviet documentation, Wild said, looking at me. Until you proved it was intentional, that someone designed them to be what they are. How many? I asked. How many did they release? Morrison pulled up the map from the Soviet files. The red circles glowed on the screen. Based on your documents, at least 40 specimens, released between 1967 and 1969. 16 different locations across Washington, Oregon, and Northern California, remote wilderness areas, national forests, places where they could establish territories without immediate human contact. And they bred, Major continued, successfully. We estimate current population at somewhere between 400 and 800 individuals. Maybe more. They're incredibly elusive. But based on sighting reports, DNA analysis from environmental samples, and satellite thermal imaging, they're established across the entire Pacific Northwest. So the Soviets won, I said. They created a self-sustaining biological weapon in our territory, and it's still here 50 years later. Not exactly, one of the military officers said. Colonel Stone, according to his name tag, because they didn't anticipate evolution. The specimens they released were designed for aggression, strength, wilderness survival, but they weren't designed for intelligence. That developed on its own. Wild leaned forward. I saw them in 2018, documented them. They have language, culture, tool use, things the Soviets didn't engineer, things that emerged naturally over 50 years and 3 generations of breeding. So they're not just weapons anymore, I said. They're people. Sentient beings who happen to originate from a Soviet bioweapon program. That's the problem, Morrison said. Because if this information leaks, the implications are catastrophic. First, it proves the Soviets successfully deployed biological weapons on U.S. soil. That alone could destabilize current relations with Russia. Second, it reveals that we've known about it for years and hidden it. Third, it means every Bigfoot sighting, every encounter, every missing person in those forests, all of it connects to a weapon we failed to contain. And fourth, Stone added, it means we have an invasive species of enhanced predators living in our national forests. Predators that were designed to be aggressive, that were supposed to make wilderness areas dangerous, and even if they've evolved sentience, their base programming remains. How dangerous are they? I asked. Really? Major pulled up statistics. In the past 50 years, approximately 800 people have gone missing in the Pacific Northwest under circumstances that we believe involve these subjects. Most disappear without a trace. A few remains are found showing evidence of predation. We've classified all of them as natural causes: bear attacks, falls, exposure. But the pattern is clear. These beings are territorial, defensive, and when threatened, lethal. 800 people, I repeated. That's not defense, that's hunting. Or protection, Wild countered. Protection of territories they consider theirs. Protection from humans who represent an existential threat. I've seen them with families. They care for their young. They avoid confrontation when possible. But when cornered, when their children are threatened, they fight, just like we would. General Wild's perspective is noted, Morrison said carefully. But it doesn't change the operational reality. We have a population of creatures that originated from a hostile biological weapons program. They're strong enough to kill humans easily. They're smart enough to evade detection, and they're breeding. Every year the population grows. Every year the risk increases. I saw where this was going. You want to eliminate them. We want to neutralize the threat, Stone corrected, before someone else finds what you found, before the Russian archives get digitized and some researcher discovers Project Timber Wolf, before another incident like 2018 happens and we can't contain the information. We need a solution, a permanent solution. You mean genocide, Wild said flatly. You're talking about exterminating an entire species because they're inconvenient. We're talking about eliminating a biological weapon that should never have existed, Stone shot back. A weapon that's killed hundreds of our citizens. A weapon that represents a permanent Soviet victory if we leave it active. They're not weapons anymore, Wild insisted. They're people. Just because the Soviets created them doesn't mean— Gentlemen, Morrison interrupted. This debate is above all our pay grades. The decision has already been made at the highest levels. Project Timber Wolf, the original Soviet operation, is being countered with Operation Timberwolf, our operation. We're going to systematically locate and eliminate the subject population, quietly, efficiently, before the truth can leak. He looked at me. Major Volkov, you're being assigned to the operation. Your Russian expertise, your intelligence background, and your security clearance make you ideal for coordinating efforts. You'll work with Colonel Stone's team to identify subject locations and eliminate them. And me? Wild asked. You're the subject matter expert. You've documented them, observed them. You understand their behavior better than anyone. Your input will be valuable for developing elimination strategies. I won't help you hunt them, Wild said. I won't be part of another massacre. Then you'll be charged with obstruction of a classified military operation. Again. And this time there won't be political pressure to commute your sentence. You'll serve 20 years, maybe more. Wild stood up. Do what you have to do. I won't help you exterminate people because the Soviets made them in a lab." He walked out. The door sealed behind him. Stone shook his head. "He's going to be a problem." "Handle it," Morrison said. "Keep him under surveillance. If he interferes, arrest him. If he goes public, discredit him. He's already a disgraced officer who claimed Bigfoot was intelligent. Easy enough to paint him as mentally unstable." Morrison turned back to me. "Major, you'll deploy to Washington State next week. Colonel Stone's team has already identified 3 subject groupings based on recent sighting reports and environmental DNA analysis. We start with those, develop protocols, refine strategies, then scale up." "How are we eliminating them?" I asked. "Hunting teams? Poison? What's the method?" "Targeted operations," Stone said. "Small teams, suppressed weapons, night operations. We make it look like natural deaths when possible. We're not going in loud. This is surgical, precise, and completely deniable." Dr. Major looked uncomfortable. "There's something else you should know. The subjects, they're not just smart, they're getting smarter. We've been monitoring vocalizations, observing behavior through long-range surveillance. Their language complexity has increased. Their tool use has advanced. They're not just surviving, they're evolving, culturally, technologically, at a rate that suggests near-human cognitive capacity." "All the more reason to act now," Stone said, "before they become sophisticated enough to reveal themselves deliberately, before they develop technology that makes them harder to eliminate. We have a window, maybe 5 years, maybe 10, but it won't stay open forever." I looked at the files, the photographs, the Soviet documents proving these beings had been created as weapons, the DNA analysis proving they'd evolved beyond their programming, the casualty reports proving they were dangerous, and Wild's testimony proving they were intelligent. "What if we're wrong?" I asked. "What if eliminating them is the real war crime?" "Then history will judge us," Morrison said. "But right now, we're making a tactical decision based on national security imperatives. These subjects represent an existential threat that we can't allow to persist." He handed me a folder. Orders, deployment schedule, team assignments, everything official, everything authorized, everything that would make me complicit in what could be the extinction of a species that never asked to exist, that never chose to be weapons, that just wanted to survive. "You deploy Monday," Morrison said. "First target is a group in the North Cascades. 3 subjects, 2 adults, 1 juvenile. Stone's team will handle the operation. You're there to document, coordinate, and ensure nothing goes wrong. And if I refuse, then you'll be removed from the operation and replaced, but the operation continues regardless. At least if you're involved, you can ensure it's done humanely, quickly, with minimal suffering. It was a trap. Refuse and be sidelined while they did it anyway, or participate and have some influence over how it happened. Neither option was good, but one gave me a chance to maybe mitigate the horror. "I'll do it," I said. "But I want assurances. No torture, no experimentation, quick kills, and we verify each subject before engaging, no mistakes." "Agreed," Morrison said. "Colonel Stone will brief you on operational details. Dismissed." I left the skiff with the folder in my hand and a sick feeling in my stomach. Because I'd just agreed to hunt people. Maybe they'd started as weapons. Maybe they'd been designed to kill. But Wild was right. They'd evolved. They'd become something more. And we were going to destroy them because they were inconvenient. Because they were evidence of Soviet success. Because we couldn't control them and couldn't risk anyone else discovering the truth. I went back to my apartment. Opened the folder. Read the files. The first target group was designated Sierra 7. 2 adult males, 1 juvenile female. Located in a remote valley 30 miles from where Wild's 2018 incident had occurred. There were photographs, long-range surveillance, thermal imaging. I could see them in the images, moving through the forest, interacting. The juvenile staying close to the larger adults. Family, protected, loved, and in 5 days we were going to kill them. Because 50 years ago, Soviet scientists decided to weaponize nature. And now we had to clean up the mess, had to erase the evidence, had to pretend it never happened. I thought about calling Wild, warning him, but my phone was monitored, my apartment probably bugged. Stone would be watching to see if I was loyal, if I could be trusted. So I did nothing, just sat there with the files, looking at the faces of beings I was supposed to help eliminate. Beings that never asked to exist, that never chose to be weapons, that just wanted to live. And I wondered if there was any way to stop what was coming, any way to save them, any way to prevent Operation Timberwolf from becoming the genocide it was designed to be. But I already knew the answer. The operation was authorized, funded, staffed, ready to deploy, and I was just one person. One person who'd been given a choice between complicity and irrelevance. I chose complicity, because at least that gave me a chance to bear witness, to document, to maybe, just maybe, find a way to sabotage the operation from within. The Soviet Union had created them. The United States was going to destroy them. And I was caught in the middle, trying to figure out which sin was worse. Creating life as a weapon, or destroying life because we couldn't control it. 5 days. That's all the time Sierra 7 had left. 5 days before Colonel Stone's team arrived with suppressed rifles and orders to eliminate. 5 days before 3 more beings died because humans couldn't stop weaponizing nature. 5 days to figure out if I was going to follow orders or follow my conscience. And I had no idea which one would win. The helicopter dropped us 20 kilometers from the target zone. Standard insertion for black operations, far enough that rotor noise wouldn't alert the subjects, close enough that we could reach them before dawn. Colonel Stone's team was 6 operators. All special forces, all veterans of counter-terrorism operations in places the government would never acknowledge. They moved through the forest like shadows, communicating with the hand signals, every step calculated. I was the 7th. The observer, the one who was supposed to coordinate but really just bear witness to what we were about to do. We'd spent 4 days preparing, studying surveillance footage, mapping the target zone, analyzing behavioral patterns of Sierra 7. The 2 adult males appeared to be a mated pair, unusual in primates but documented in previous observations. The juvenile female was approximately 4 years old based on size estimates. They'd established territory in a remote valley with good water access and abundant food sources. Smart, strategic, exactly what you'd expect from beings designed for wilderness survival. Target should be approximately 2 clicks northeast, Stone whispered, checking his GPS. They den in a cave system on the eastern ridge. We hit them just before dawn. They'll be drowsy, less likely to scatter. What if they run? I asked. We have a perimeter. Chavez and Martinez are already in position on the north side. Williams and Rodriguez cover the south. Thompson and I take point. You stay back, observe, document. If anyone breaks through, we pursue and eliminate. No survivors, no evidence. He said it so casually, like we were discussing a pest control operation, not the murder of sentient beings. We reached the ridge at 0430. The cave entrance was visible through thermal imaging. 3 heat signatures clustered together. Sleeping. The juvenile between the 2 adults. Protected even in rest. Stone hand-signaled the team into position. Suppressed rifles raised. infrared lasers painting targets through the cave entrance. Professional, efficient, exactly how you'd execute any high-value target. Except these targets had never committed a crime, never chosen to be weapons, never asked for any of this. "On my mark," Stone whispered into his radio. 3, 2, 1. A vocalization cut him off. Deep, resonant. Coming from inside the cave, not the sound of sleep, the sound of awareness. Warning. "They know we're here," I said. "Impossible. We're 300 meters out, no line of sight, no scent trail." But the vocalizations continued, more urgent now, and I heard something else. Response calls from farther away, from other directions, more than 3 subjects. The surveillance had been wrong. "Abort," I urged. "This isn't Sierra 7. There are more of them." "Too late," Stone said. Movement in the cave, taking the shot. 3 suppressed rifles fired simultaneously. The sound was soft, like someone clearing their throat, but through thermal imaging I saw one heat signature drop immediately. The largest adult, dead before he hit the ground. The other adult exploded out of the cave carrying the juvenile, moving faster than anything that size should move. The genetic enhancements working exactly as the Soviets had designed. Enhanced musculature, enhanced reflexes, enhanced survival instincts. "Target 2, moving west," Stone reported. "Intercept and eliminate." But the female, I was sure it was female now, the way she protected the juvenile, didn't run in a straight line. She zigzagged, used trees for cover, moved with tactical awareness that shouldn't have been possible without training, and then more of them appeared. From the north, from the south. At least 6 more adults, emerging from positions around the valley. Not random. Coordinated. They'd known we were coming, prepared for us, set an ambush. "Contact left," Chavez shouted. An 8-foot figure materialized out of the darkness, moving toward him with purpose. He fired, hit it center mass. It stumbled but didn't fall, kept coming. The enhanced physiology absorbing damage that would kill a normal primate. Chavez fired again. Headshot this time. The figure dropped, but now they were everywhere. Moving through the forest with precision that spoke of organization, strategy. They weren't just defending, they were executing a counter-ambush, attacking from multiple angles, isolating our operators. "Fall back," Stone ordered, "fighting withdrawal to extraction point." I ran. Branches tore at my face. My lungs burned. Behind me, I heard suppressed gunfire. Vocalizations that sounded like commands, the heavy footfalls of something massive giving chase. I stumbled into a clearing and nearly collided with one of them. She was huge, 7.5 feet at least, covered in dark reddish-brown hair. But the face was disturbingly human, high forehead suggesting expanded cranial capacity, eyes that tracked me with calculation, not just instinct. And in her hands she carried a spear, an actual weapon, sharpened stone bound to a wooden shaft with plant fibers. They'd progressed from tool use to tool creation, from rocks to actual manufactured weapons. The cultural evolution Dr. Major had described wasn't gradual, it was explosive. She vocalized, not aggression, not threat, a question, in a language I didn't understand but whose intent was clear. "Why are you attacking us?" "I'm sorry," I said, knowing she probably couldn't understand English but needing to say it anyway. "I'm so sorry." She tilted her head, processing. Then she did something that stopped my heart. She lowered the spear, pointed at herself, made a vocalization, 3 distinct syllables. A name. She was telling me her name, then she pointed at me. Waited, asking for mine in return. Gunfire erupted behind me. The female's head snapped toward the sound. She vocalized, loud, urgent, a warning to her group. Then she looked back at me, made a gesture. Universal, unmistakable. Go, run, get away from here. She was letting me go. Even though I was part of the team killing her people, she was showing mercy. I ran, found Stone and 2 other operators regrouping near a creek. We're down 2, Stone reported grimly. Martinez is dead, Williams is missing, and we only confirmed 2 subject kills, the rest scattered. How? I demanded. How did Martinez die? Blunt force trauma, something hit him, something strong enough to crush his chest cavity through body armor. These things are stronger than our intelligence suggested. They're smarter too, I said. I just encountered one. She had a weapon, a manufactured weapon, and she tried to communicate with me, used language, told me her name. Stone stared at me. That's not in the behavioral profiles. The profiles are wrong. The Soviets designed them for aggression and survival. But 50 years of evolution has changed them. They're not just mimicking human behavior. They're developing human-level cognition, maybe beyond. Doesn't change the mission, Stone said. We eliminate the threat, all of them. Even after they let me go, after one of them showed mercy when she could have killed me? Especially then. Because mercy means morality. Morality means they'll eventually try to make contact, and when they do, when the world learns what they are, Project Timberwolf becomes public. Everything the Soviets did, everything we're doing now, all of it exposed. We can't allow that. We made it to the extraction point at dawn. The helicopter lifted us out while I watched the forest below. Somewhere down there, Sierra 7 was mourning. 2 dead. Maybe more. Families broken. Children orphaned. All because we couldn't risk the truth getting out. The debriefing at the forward operating base was tense. Stone reported 2 confirmed subject kills, 2 friendly KIA, 1 operator missing. Mission parameters compromised. Subject population larger and more organized than intelligence suggested. We need to revise our approach, Stone concluded. These subjects are coordinating, using tactics. They knew we were coming. They prepared an ambush. This isn't animal behavior. This is military behavior. Because the Soviets designed them for wilderness warfare, I said. You said it yourself. They were supposed to make forests tactically hostile. Apparently they learned, adapted, became what they were engineered to be, but smarter. Which makes them more dangerous, Stone argued, and more urgent to eliminate. Or it means we should stop, I countered. Stop before we commit genocide against beings who are clearly sentient. Stop before we kill more people on both sides for a cover-up operation. Morrison's face appeared on the secure video link. Major Volkov, your moral concerns are noted but irrelevant. The operation continues. Colonel Stone, you're authorized to increase team size and adjust tactics. If the subjects are coordinating, we respond with overwhelming force. Bring in more operators, better weapons, air support if necessary. Sir, with respect, I tried again. We just witnessed proof that these beings have language, technology, and moral reasoning. Under international law, they're not covered by international law, Morrison interrupted. They're not a recognized species. They're classified as a biological hazard, a Soviet weapon that requires containment. Your role is to coordinate elimination operations, not question policy. And if I refuse? Then you'll be removed from the operation and charged with insubordination. This isn't optional, Major. This is a direct order from the highest levels of government. Execute your mission or face consequences." The video cut off. I was left in a room with Stone and his surviving operators, all of them looking at me to see what I'd do. I thought about the female who'd let me go, about her attempting communication, about her lowering her weapon when she could have killed me, about the sophistication of their ambush and the grief I'd heard in their vocalizations when their family members died. And I made a decision that would either save them or doom us all. "I need to contact General Wild," I said. "He has information about their behavior that could be valuable for operational planning." Stone nodded. "Fine, but keep it professional. He's under surveillance. Any hint he's interfering and we arrest him immediately." I used the secure satellite phone to call Wild's number. He answered on the second ring. "Major Volkov, I was wondering when you'd reach out." "General, I need your expertise on subject behavior. We encountered unexpected organizational sophistication. They ambushed us, used weapons, communicated." "Told you. They're people." "Sir, that's not why I'm calling. I need to understand how they think, how they make decisions. Because if we're going to—" I paused, choosing my words carefully, knowing the call was monitored. "Mitigate casualties on both sides. I need to understand their tactics." There was a long silence. Then Wild spoke, his voice careful. "You're asking how to kill them more efficiently. I'm asking how to avoid more deaths, theirs and ours." Another pause. "They'll protect their families above all else. They communicate over distances using vocalizations. They have scouts, sentries. They'll know you're coming before you're close. And if you attack, they'll defend. But they won't pursue. They're not aggressive. They're territorial. So, if we stay out of their territory, they'll leave you alone. They've been doing it for 50 years. Avoiding humans, hiding, surviving. They don't want contact. They just want to be left alone." "Thank you, General. That's valuable intelligence." I hung up. Stone was watching me carefully. "What was that about?" "Operational intelligence." He confirmed they're defensive, not offensive. Which means we can use their territorial instincts against them, drive them into kill zones, force them to defend predictable positions. It was a lie. What I was really doing was warning Wild, letting him know the operation was escalating, hoping he'd figure out I was asking for help, not offering it. Stone accepted the explanation. "Good. We're bringing in 12 more operators, doubling our firepower. Next target is Delta 3, single adult male, isolated territory. Should be easier than Sierra 7. But it wasn't easier. Delta 3 wasn't alone. He had connections to other groups. When we moved on his position 3 days later, we found ourselves facing coordinated resistance from multiple families. They'd communicated, warned each other, prepared together. The firefight lasted 40 minutes. We killed 4 of them, lost 3 operators, and Delta 3 escaped into the deep wilderness, wounded but alive. "This isn't working," Stone admitted after the operation. "Every time we hit one group, the others learn. They're adapting faster than we can operate. We kill one, they develop counter tactics. It's like fighting an enemy that evolves in real time." "Because they're not animals," I said. "They're learning, sharing information, building institutional knowledge about how to fight humans. The Soviets designed them to be adaptive, to survive. We're just proving that the design worked." "Then we changed strategies," Stone said. "No more ground operations. We use hunters, bounties, make it look like sport hunting. Spread them across the region so it doesn't look coordinated. That'll take years, and you'll never get them all. There are too many, too spread out, and every kill just teaches the survivors how to avoid the next attack." "What's your solution?" Stone demanded. Let them live? Let a Soviet biological weapon establish permanent presence in American territory? Let hundreds more people disappear in those forests? I didn't have an answer, because both options were impossible. We couldn't exterminate them. They were too smart, too adaptive, too determined to survive. But we also couldn't let them continue. The threat was real, the casualties were real, and the secret couldn't stay hidden forever. Unless... What if we gave them territory, I said. Designated zones, protected wilderness, in exchange for staying out of human areas. Reduce contact, reduce casualties, manage the threat instead of eliminating it. That requires acknowledging they exist, Stone said, which means revealing Project Timber Wolf, which defeats the purpose of this operation. Not if we do it carefully. Expand national parks, restrict access to certain areas, environmental protection rationale. We don't say why, we just create buffer zones that give them space while keeping humans safe. Stone shook his head. Above my pay grade. And Morrison will never approve it. The order is eliminate, not accommodate. But I'd planted the seed. Given Stone something to think about besides hunting. Maybe, just maybe, there was a third option between genocide and exposure. That night I couldn't sleep, kept seeing the female who'd lowered her weapon, kept hearing Martinez's screams when something crushed his chest, kept thinking about children, human and otherwise, growing up in forests where violence was the only certainty. My secure phone buzzed. Unknown number. I shouldn't have answered. But I did. Major Volkov. Wild's voice. I know what you're doing, and I want to help. General, this is an unsecured line. I know. I don't care. You're trying to find a way to save them. I can help, but we need to move fast. Because every day you're in the field, more die. On both sides. What are you proposing? Meeting. Face-to-face, tomorrow. I'll send coordinates. Come alone. And Major, don't trust the operation. Stone's team isn't the only one hunting. There are others. Private contractors. Operating outside official channels. Someone wants them gone faster than military operations allow. He hung up. I stared at the phone, knowing it was monitored. Knowing Stone would hear everything. Knowing I'd just compromised myself. But I also knew Wild was right. This operation had too many layers, too many secrets. And somewhere above Morrison, someone was making decisions that went beyond national security. Someone wanted Operation Timberwolf to succeed. Wanted the subjects eliminated completely. No matter the cost, no matter the truth. And I was caught in the middle, trying to figure out if I was hunting weapons or murdering people. The line between those two definitions was getting thinner every day, and soon I'd have to choose which side I was on. I met Wild at an abandoned fire lookout tower 40 miles from the operation zone. Remote enough that Stone's surveillance couldn't track me easily, public enough that it looked like legitimate reconnaissance. I told Stone I was scouting potential subject territories. He didn't believe me, but he couldn't prove otherwise. Wild was already there when I arrived. Older now. Grayer. The years since his court-martial had worn him down, but his eyes were still sharp, still calculating. "You're taking a risk," I said, climbing the tower stairs. "You're the one taking the risk. Stone's probably tracking your phone. Give me 5 minutes before they triangulate our position." I handed him an encrypted tablet. "Here, everything I've documented. Operation orders, target lists, casualty reports, both sides." He scrolled through the files, his expression darkening. Jesus Christ. 37 subjects eliminated in 2 months. 21 operators, KIA. This isn't elimination. It's a war, and you're losing. They're more organized than intelligence predicted. Every attack teaches them. They're developing counter-tactics faster than we can adapt. It's like fighting an enemy with institutional learning at accelerated speed. Because that's exactly what they are, Wild said. The Soviets designed them for wilderness warfare, enhanced intelligence for tactical adaptation. The cognitive capacity wasn't supposed to be this high, but evolution doesn't follow programming. They've become what they needed to be to survive, which is smarter than us, more adaptive, and highly motivated. Wild. There's something else. The operation isn't just military. There are private contractors operating in parallel, hunting subjects independently. Stone says they're outside official channels. I know. I've been tracking them, Blackwater, or whatever they're calling themselves now. They've got contracts from someone high up. Someone who wants the subjects gone faster than your operation allows. Who? Wild pulled out a folder. Old photographs, documents. You found the Soviet files, but there's more. Project Timberwolf wasn't just about creating weapons. It was about creating a resource. The genetic enhancements weren't military only. They included accelerated healing, disease resistance, enhanced longevity. The Soviets were exploring genetic modifications for human application, super soldier programs, life extension. The subjects were test cases. You're saying they're valuable. Not as weapons, as medical research. Exactly, and several pharmaceutical companies know it. They've been lobbying the government for years to capture specimens for study, to reverse engineer the Soviet modifications, to patent the genetic sequences. We're talking trillions in potential revenue. So this isn't about national security. It's about money. It's about both. The government wants them eliminated before the truth leaks. The corporations want them captured before they're all dead. Someone high up is playing both sides, using military operations to suppress the population while contractors capture specimens for corporate research. That's insane. You're talking about a conspiracy involving multiple agencies, private corporations, and classified bioweapons programs. You found the Soviet files yourself. You know what they did. Is it really so hard to believe our government would do the same? Weaponize life? Exploit it for profit? We've done worse for less. I thought about the female who'd communicated with me, about her attempting to give me her name, about the sophistication of their language and the complexity of their social organization. They're people, Wild. Whatever the Soviets made them from, they've evolved into people. Killing them is genocide. Capturing them for research is slavery. Either way, we're committing atrocities. Which is why you need to stop the operation, not slow it down. Stop it, completely. I can't. Morrison has direct orders from... Morrison is compromised. Wild interrupted. I've been digging. His retirement portfolio includes substantial holdings in GenCorp Pharmaceuticals, one of the companies lobbying for subject access. He's profiting from this operation, probably getting kickbacks for every specimen the contractors deliver. That's a serious accusation. You have proof? Financial records, shell companies, transfers, nothing I can take public without exposing myself to prosecution. But enough to know Morrison isn't running this operation for national security. He's running it for money. A radio crackle, Stone's voice. Major Volkov, return to base immediately. We have a situation. Wild and I looked at each other. They found us, he said. No, this is something else. A situation means subject activity. Major activity. I keyed the radio. Roger. En route. ETA 20 minutes. Wild grabbed my arm. Whatever they're telling you to do, think first. These subjects aren't just defending anymore. They're planning, organizing on a scale we haven't seen. There's something happening in those forests. Something bigger than isolated families protecting territory. What do you mean? I've been monitoring their vocalizations, recording them. The patterns have changed. more complex, more frequent. Long-distance calls happening daily. They're communicating across vast distances, coordinating. And the language. Major, it's not just primate vocalizations anymore. It's developed syntax, grammar, abstraction. They're not just talking about immediate threats. They're discussing future scenarios, planning responses. You're saying they're strategizing, as a population. I'm saying they're organizing, like a tribe, maybe a nation. And if they're doing that, if they're developing that level of social cohesion, they're going to make a move, defend themselves collectively, or maybe, he paused, maybe reveal themselves deliberately, force the world to acknowledge them before we can eliminate them all. The radio crackled again. Stone, urgent. Major, we have multiple subject concentrations moving toward federal land boundaries. At least 50 individuals, converging on 3 locations. This is unprecedented activity. We need you here now. 50 individuals, moving together. That was a quarter of the estimated population, and they were moving toward federal land boundaries, toward places where humans would see them. Wild was right. They were making a move. I drove back to base at dangerous speeds, arrived to find chaos. Operators suiting up, drones launching, Stone coordinating with multiple teams over encrypted channels. What's happening? I demanded. Stone pulled up a tactical map. Massive subject movement. Started 2 hours ago. They're converging on 3 national parks. Olympic, North Cascades, and Mount Rainier, all areas with high human traffic. If they emerge at those locations, we'll have civilian witnesses. Photos, videos. The whole thing goes public. Maybe that's the point. Maybe they want to go public. Force recognition before we eliminate them. That cannot happen. We have orders to intercept before they reach populated areas. Engage and eliminate all of them, today, now. You're talking about killing 50 subjects, 50 people. I'm talking about stopping a biological weapon from exposing itself to the civilian population. We have 6 teams deploying. Contractors are moving into position. Air support is on standby. We end this today. Stone, you can't. I can, and I will. This is exactly the scenario we've been preparing for. Mass movement. Coordinated action. This is their mistake. Getting them all in the open. We can finish this operation in one decisive strike. I looked at the map. At the 3 convergence points. At the estimated numbers. 50 subjects, maybe more. Families, children, all of them moving toward humanity, toward revelation, toward a future where they didn't have to hide. And we were preparing to massacre them for it. I need to see Morrison, I said. Morrison authorized the response. He knows. This came from above him, from people you'll never meet, from whatever compartmentalized program is actually running Operation Timber Wolf. Then I'm pulling my authorization. I won't coordinate this operation. I won't help you kill 50 beings who are just trying to survive. Stone grabbed my arm, hard. You don't have that option. You're under military jurisdiction. Refusing orders is treason. You stay, you coordinate, or I put you in restraints and charge you with sabotaging a classified operation. 2 operators moved behind me, ready to detain if necessary. I was trapped, forced to witness, maybe participate in, what could be the final extinction of a species we'd created and then condemned, unless I could stop it, or delay it, buy them time to reach safety, to reach populations, to force the government's hand. I keyed my encrypted phone. One last message to Wild. They're hitting all 3 convergence points. Overwhelming force, need immediate intervention. Wild's reply was instant. On it. Buy me 30 minutes. 30 minutes. To do what? Wild was one person. Retired, disgraced. What could he possibly do against 6 military teams and an air support package? But I had to try, had to slow this down somehow. Stone, I need to verify target identification protocols. Make sure we're not hitting civilian hikers, friendly forces, anyone other than subjects. Already confirmed, thermal signatures match subject morphology. Large bipeds, moving in coordinated groups. No other activity in those sectors. Weather conditions, visibility, extraction routes if teams are compromised. Major, stop stalling. We launch in 5 minutes. 5 minutes for an operation that will determine if we're heroes or war criminals. Yeah, I'm going to verify everything. I pulled up drone feeds, watched thermal images of the subjects moving through forests. They weren't attacking, weren't threatening, just moving. Walking toward places where humans would see them, where cameras would capture them, where denial would become impossible. And we were preparing to gun them down before they could take another step. The operators loaded into helicopters. Stone watched me carefully. You're with me. Forward command position. You'll coordinate from the air. No chance to interfere on the ground. I wouldn't. Yes, you would. You're sympathetic. I get it. They're smart, maybe even sentient, but they're also weapons. Soviet-designed bioweapons that have killed hundreds of Americans. This ends today. We lifted off. 3 helicopters heading to Olympic National Park, the largest concentration, 30-plus subjects moving through the Hoh rainforest toward the visitor center. If they reached it, if tourists saw them, everything would unravel. Through the tactical display, I watched other teams approaching their targets. North Cascades team reporting contact. Mount Rainier team in position. Everyone waiting for Stone's order to engage. All teams, this is command. Green light. Engage targets. Rules of engagement. Eliminate all subjects. No survivors. No witnesses. Execute. 6 teams opened fire simultaneously. On subjects who weren't attacking, who were just walking, trying to reach humans, trying to communicate, trying to force a revelation that might save their species. Through helmet cameras I saw the carnage. Subjects falling, others scattering. Some fighting back with spears and rocks against automatic weapons, dying in defense of their families, their children, their right to exist. Contact down, contact down. Teams calling in kills, tallying casualties like a body count. Like this was a war we were winning instead of a genocide we were committing. But then something changed. The subjects at Olympic Park stopped running. They didn't scatter. They formed a defensive circle. Adults on the outside, juveniles protected in the center, making a stand. And they vocalized, all of them, in unison. A sound that carried through the forest and into our helicopter mics. A sound that wasn't random, that wasn't panic. It was words, clear words, in English. Stop. We are people. We have names. We have children. Stop killing us. The operators hesitated, hearing human words from non-human mouths, hearing beings we were treating as animals speak our language, beg for their lives, assert their personhood in words we couldn't deny understanding. Jesus Christ, one operator whispered over the channel. Did they just maintain fire? Stone ordered. Subjects are using vocal mimicry. It's not real language, it's please, the subjects vocalized again. We do not want to die. They're speaking English, I said. Full sentences. That's not mimicry, that's language. Learned language. They've been listening to us, learning our language while we hunted them. Irrelevant, Stone said. Take the shot. All teams. Eliminate targets. Sir, they're surrendering. one team leader reported. "They've lowered their weapons. They're not fighting. They're just standing there, speaking. I said eliminate them. Sir, I need confirmation. These beings are talking, using human language, requesting mercy. I need—" A new voice cut into the channel, higher authority than Stone. "This is SecDef Thompson. All teams, cease fire immediately. Fall back to secondary positions. I repeat, cease fire. We have a diplomatic situation." Stone's face went white. "Sir, that's not— How did—" General Wild sent a full operational report to the Senate Intelligence Committee approximately 28 minutes ago, including audio of subjects using English, video of coordinate attacks on non-hostile beings, and financial records showing corporate connections to this operation. You're all over CNN, Colonel. Operation Timberwolf is public, and every camera crew on the West Coast is headed to those parks right now." Wild. He'd done it. Leaked everything. Forced disclosure. Made it impossible to continue the operation in secret. "Sir, we can still—" "You can stand down," Thompson interrupted. "Immediately. Before you turn this into an international incident. Those subjects are communicating, speaking English. The world is watching, and we need to figure out our response before more shots are fired." The helicopters turned back. The teams withdrew. And below us, in 3 national parks across Washington state, groups of beings we'd been hunting stood together, speaking, waiting, hoping that humanity would finally see them not as weapons, not as threats, but as people. People we'd created. People we'd tried to destroy. People who'd learned our language so they could beg us to stop killing them. I watched them on the thermal display, saw them gather their dead, saw them comfort their wounded, saw them mourn exactly the way humans mourn. And I knew that everything had changed. Operation Timberwolf was over. The secret was out. The world knew now that the Soviets had created an intelligent species, that we'd been trying to eliminate them, that they'd evolved beyond their programming into something worth protecting. But I also knew it wasn't over, because the corporations still wanted them, the military still feared them. And somewhere, people like Morrison were planning how to spin this, how to regain control, how to contain the revelation before it destroyed careers and exposed crimes. The subjects had won a battle, made themselves heard, forced recognition. But the war was just beginning, and I had no idea which side would win, or what would be left when it was over. The video went viral within hours. Smartphone footage from hikers at Olympic National Park. Shaky, grainy, but unmistakable. 8-foot-tall figures standing in a clearing, speaking English words, clear enough that even skeptics couldn't dismiss it as hoax. "We are people. Stop killing us." 20 seconds of video that destroyed 50 years of cover-ups. That proved Bigfoot wasn't myth, wasn't animal, was an intelligent species that spoke our language and demanded recognition. The media exploded. Every network led with it. Intelligent species discovered in East forests. Bigfoot speaks English. Government accused of genocide. The footage played on loop. Experts analyzed voice patterns. Linguists confirmed the language structure was real. Biologists demanded access to study them. And Wild's leaked documents provided context. Project Timberwolf, Soviet biological weapons program, genetic enhancement protocols, release of specimens in American territory, government knowledge, cover-up, elimination operations. I was arrested 3 hours after we returned to base, charged with unauthorized disclosure of classified information, conspiracy, treason. They needed a scapegoat, someone to blame for the leak. Wild had disappeared, gone underground before they could grab him. That left me. You coordinated with Wild, the interrogator said. Air Force intelligence, clean suit, dead eyes. Gave him classified files, enabled his disclosure. I gave him nothing he didn't already know. He was read into the program. He had clearance. Revoked clearance from 2018. Anything he released after that is espionage. And you helped him. I helped prevent a massacre. 50 beings were about to be gunned down for trying to communicate with us. That's not national security. That's murder. Those beings are Soviet-designed biological weapons. Enemy assets on U.S. soil. Eliminating them is standard protocol. They speak English. They have names. They raise families. They're not weapons anymore. They're people. They're property. Soviet property. Which makes them either evidence of an attack on the United States or salvage we're entitled to study. Either way, they're not people under any legal framework. That was the argument the government settled on. The subjects weren't people. They were biological constructs, property, like genetically modified organisms. They had no rights, no legal standing, no protection under humanitarian law. But the public disagreed. Protests erupted. Animal rights groups, religious organizations, indigenous rights activists, all demanding protection for what they called our evolutionary cousins, or God's creatures, or the first people of the Pacific Northwest. The Senate held emergency hearings. I testified under immunity, told them everything. The Soviet program, the genetic modifications, the half-century of cover-up, the elimination operations, Morrison's financial connections, all of it. Morrison was quietly retired. Stone was reassigned. The contractors were investigated and promptly given classified contracts to study and contain the subject population. Different operation, same objective, just with better PR. Dr. Major testified about their intelligence. Language capability, tool use, social structures, cultural transmission of knowledge, everything that met the criteria for personhood under any reasonable definition. But the government's position remained. They're not people. They're biological constructs, enhanced organisms, and the question of their legal status would require years of court battles, scientific studies, and political negotiation. Meanwhile, the subjects remained in the forests, now monitored by military. Civilians prohibited from approach. The national parks where they'd made their stand were closed indefinitely. Official reason: public safety concerns. Real reason: containment, while the government figured out what to do with beings they couldn't kill publicly but wouldn't acknowledge legally. I was eventually released. Dishonorable discharge. No prison time thanks to public pressure. But my career was over. My clearance revoked. My reputation destroyed. I didn't care. Because I'd seen what they were. Spoken to one. Heard them use our language to beg for their lives. And I'd failed to save them. Failed to give them the protection they deserved. Schwald resurfaced 6 months later. He'd been coordinating with indigenous tribes, the Quinault, the Snoqualmie, the Stillaguamish. Tribes who'd known about the subjects for generations, who'd called them mountain people and forest walkers, who'd maintained respectful distance and expected the same. They want to help, Wild told me when we met secretly in Seattle. Create protected corridors, traditional lands where the subjects can live without government interference. It's not perfect, but it's better than what Morrison had planned. What about the corporate interests? They still want specimens, research. 3 have already been captured, taken to private facilities. The government claims they're being studied humanely, but we both know what that means. Medical experimentation, genetic sampling, breeding programs to create more controllable versions. That's slavery. That's exactly what the Soviets did. Welcome to America, where we learn nothing from history. Over the next 2 years, I watched the situation deteriorate. The protected areas were established, but they were small, insufficient for a population that needed vast territories. Development continued around them: logging, mining, encroachment. The subjects adapted. Some groups stayed deep in the wilderness, avoiding all human contact. Others moved to the protected zones, accepting surveillance in exchange for safety. And a very few, attempted to make contact, to communicate more, to learn more about the humans who'd created them and then tried to destroy them. One of them was the female I'd met that first night, the one who'd let me go, who'd tried to give me her name. She approached a research station in Olympic National Park, alone, unarmed, and she spoke in English, clearly, with vocabulary that proved she'd been listening, learning, preparing for this moment. "My name is Kaya," she said to the stunned researchers. "My people need help. We are dying. You take our forests. You kill us when we defend. We do not want war. We want peace. We want to live. Please." The video of that encounter was played before Congress, before the UN, before the world. And slowly, painfully, the consensus began to shift. Maybe they weren't just biological constructs. Maybe they were people. Different, yes. Created rather than evolved naturally, but people nonetheless. The debate continues today. Court cases, scientific studies, ethical commissions. Some countries have recognized them as a protected species. Others classify them as dangerous biological entities requiring containment. The U.S. position remains ambiguous. They're subjects of ongoing research, protected but not free, monitored but not acknowledged as legally human. The population continues to decline. Habitat loss. Continued hunting by people who don't care about legal debates. Capture by corporations that exploit loopholes in protection laws. Disease, stress, low birth rates in captive populations. We created them as weapons. They evolved into people. And now we're watching them go extinct because we can't agree on what they are. Whether they have rights. Whether they deserve more than cages and protocols and bureaucratic indifference. I visit the Olympic Research Station sometimes. Kaya is still there, teaching researchers her language, learning English better every day, sharing knowledge about her people's history, culture, needs, serving as ambassador for a species that didn't ask to exist, but demands the right to survive. "You saved us that night," she told me once, "when you met me in forest. You could have shot, you did not. You let me go, I remember. I should have done more, should have stopped it sooner. You did what you could more than most humans. You saw us, really saw us. Not as weapons, not as animals, as people. That is why I speak to you now, why I trust you." But trust is thin, because the threats continue. Morrison might be gone, but others like him remain. People who see the subjects as resources, as medical gold mines, as threats, as things to be controlled or eliminated. There's talk of new legislation, bills that would recognize them as legally protected beings with rights, bills that would allow unlimited research, bills that would authorize renewed elimination operations. The government is paralyzed by competing interests, corporate lobbying, public opinion, international pressure, all of it stalling while the population continues to decline. Wild works with tribal nations to create independent sanctuaries, unofficial, outside government control, places where subjects can live without surveillance, without capture, without constant fear. It's dangerous work, illegal work, But it's working. Small populations are stabilizing in these hidden sanctuaries, learning to live alongside humans who respect their autonomy. I help when I can, quietly, carefully. I still have enemies in the government, people who'd love to arrest me for interfering. But I also have allies now, researchers who see what Kaya and others represent, politicians who want to do the right thing, citizens who care about beings that were created by human technology and abandoned by human morality. The Soviets designed them as tools of warfare, as disruption, as biological time bombs that would make American wilderness dangerous forever. And in a way, they succeeded. The forests are dangerous now, not because the subjects are aggressive, but because humans made them that way, made them fear us, made them fight for survival, made them into the threats we claimed they were. But they're also becoming something else. Ambassadors, teachers. Proof that intelligence can emerge from unexpected sources, that personhood isn't limited to humans, that we can create life but we can't control what it becomes. Project Timberwolf was a Soviet operation designed to harm America. Operation Timberwolf was our operation designed to eliminate the threat. Both failed. Because you can't destroy something that refuses to stop existing, that adapts, that learns, that becomes more than you made it to be. The subjects are still here, fewer than before, threatened, hunted, captured, but surviving, speaking, demanding recognition, forcing us to confront questions we're not ready to answer. Are they people? Do they have rights? What do we owe beings we created and then abandoned? How do we reconcile the sins of creation with the responsibilities of recognition? I don't have answers. Nobody does. But I know this. They're not going away, not quietly, not willingly. They're fighting for every generation, every child, every piece of territory. Fighting because that's what we designed them to do. Fighting because that's what evolution demands. Fighting because living is better than dying, even when living means constant struggle. Kaya asked me once what I thought would happen to her people. I didn't want to answer, didn't want to give her false hope. But she pressed, "Tell me truth. Will we survive?" I thought about the declining numbers, the ongoing threats, the bureaucratic indifference, the corporate greed, the human capacity for rationalizing atrocities. And I thought about her, speaking English, teaching researchers, serving as bridge between species, proving every day that she was more than Soviet scientists intended, more than American military feared, more than anyone expected. I don't know, I told her honestly, but I know you'll fight, and that's more than most species get. A chance, a voice, a reason to hope. She nodded, accepted the uncertainty, because she'd lived her entire life with uncertainty, with threat, with the knowledge that humans could decide her fate at any moment. And she'd survived anyway, adapted, learned, became. That's what the Soviets created. Not weapons, not tools, but beings who refused to be defined by their origin, who transcended programming, who demanded more than existence. They demanded recognition. Whether they get it depends on us, on whether we're capable of acknowledging what we've done, of extending rights to beings we created, of admitting that intelligence is valuable regardless of origin, that personhood is earned through thought and feeling and choice, not granted through biology alone. The debate continues. The courts argue, the scientists study, the politicians posture, and in the forests of the Pacific Northwest, beings who speak English and raise families and remember their dead wait for us to figure out what they are. People, weapons, property, threats, miracles. Maybe they're all of those things. Maybe they're none of them. Maybe they're just themselves. Beings trying to survive in a world that doesn't know what to do with them. Just like the rest of us. I still have the Soviet files, the original documents from Project Timber Wolf. Proof of creation. Proof of intention. Proof that what we're trying to decide is already decided. They were made by humans for human purposes, and that makes them our responsibility, not our property. Our responsibility, because we don't get to create life and then walk away. Don't get to make beings and then declare them inconvenient. Don't get to play God and then claim no obligation to what we've created. The Soviets understood that. In their way, they made the subjects and released them. Took responsibility through abandonment. Let them live or die without interference. We tried to eliminate them, failed. And now we're stuck with a question that will define how we think about intelligence, life, and our own role as creators. Project Timber Wolf failed because the Soviets underestimated evolution. Operation Timber Wolf failed because we underestimated personhood. Both tried to control life. Both discovered that control is an illusion when intelligence emerges. And now we're all, human and subject alike, living with the consequences. Trying to figure out if coexistence is possible, if recognition is achievable, if beings made by one empire and hunted by another can find peace in a world that still doesn't know what they are. I see Kaya tomorrow. She wants to discuss expansion of protected territory. Her group is growing. They need more space, more resources, more acknowledgement that they're not going anywhere, that they're permanent residents of these forests, that the land is theirs not by grant but by right of existence. I'll help her make that case, again, knowing it probably won't work, knowing the government will delay and deny and defer, knowing corporations are lobbying for the opposite. More access, less protection, greater ability to capture specimens for research. But I'll keep trying, because I saw what they are that first night. Saw the intelligence in their eyes. Saw the mercy in their choice. Saw the humanity in beings we created and then tried to destroy. And I know that if they can survive, created as weapons, hunted as threats, imprisoned as subjects, then maybe we can survive too. Maybe we can learn. Maybe we can evolve beyond our need to control and destroy. Maybe we can recognize intelligence in forms we didn't expect and extend rights to beings we created. Maybe, but probably not, because that would require admitting we were wrong, that we created people and tried to kill them, that we owe them more than surveillance and containment, that they deserve what we all deserve, the right to exist without justification, without proving worth, without begging for recognition. Project Timberwolf taught us that creating life is easy. Operation Timberwolf taught us that destroying life is harder than we thought, and the aftermath is teaching us the hardest lesson of all. Living with what we've created requires more humanity than we've shown. The subjects are still here, speaking, learning, fighting for every generation. And we're still here, debating, studying, trying to figure out if beings we made in labs deserve the same respect as beings we claim were made by God. The answer should be obvious, but obviousness has never stopped us from making the wrong choice, from choosing convenience over ethics, from choosing control over coexistence. And so the question remains, and the subjects wait, and I do what I can, which is never enough. But it's all any of us can do when facing questions bigger than ourselves, when confronting consequences of creation we never intended, when trying to make right what we made wrong. They're not weapons. They're not animals. They're not property. They're people. Different people. Created people. But people. And until we recognize that, Operation Timber Wolf will never really end. It'll just continue in new forms, new elimination operations, new capture protocols, new ways to avoid the truth we don't want to accept, that we created life. And life demands respect, regardless of origin, regardless of purpose, regardless of what we intended when we made them. They're here, they're speaking, they're demanding recognition, and we still don't know how to answer.